the train rolling, we do a little trolling, dodge that bullet and take back what was stolen. The God Emperor of the universe rises again. The time traveler, adventurer is rising, rising. The great American spirit is rising again. 4-7, forever, forever, until the very end. Fight to the very end. Fight, 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 fight.
I don't know. I'm not sure, Mark. I don't know. I'm not trying to put you on the spot here. Is this your house? Is this the sign that stands above your home in New Jersey?
There are a lot of Trump signs in New Jersey. Let me tell you, I did my crawling over broken glass yesterday because after New Jersey messed up my registration change of address, I had to drive over 2 hours each way to go vote yesterday. And I'm not going to say who I voted for, but I did see a lot of Trump signs. I was posting them on Twitter. Pretty crazy. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that Donald Trump has a great chance of getting New Jersey, but the chance is definitely not zero. It's moved to the right massively since 2020. And I don't think anybody predicted that this cycle we'd be talking about Republicans leading in the early vote in New Jersey. So, I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. I've been saying over and over again, I think Trump's going to outperform the polling. It's just a question of how much. And New Jersey's, not that far down the list of states who would flip if Trump outperforms.
Mark, I want to begin by giving you an opportunity to take a battle axe to this Ann Seltzer poll in Iowa. Now, I'm from Iowa, and so we've been talking about New Jersey. Let's talk about my home state. Iowa has swung red by 5 to 7 points in every single county. Iowa is a state that went for Trump by double digits in both of the last 2 election cycles. Yet the polling princess of Iowa says that Kamala Harris is about to defeat Donald Trump in the state of Iowa as a massive outlier. Yet instead of being treated like an outlier that is insane and nobody else can replicate, it's vaunted on, it leads every single news broadcast. It's the #1 story. Don Jr. was on earlier saying that Democrat governors were out bragging about this poll before it was even out. The whole thing stinks to high heavens to me, but I don't do this professionally, so the floor is yours. What's your take on this poll?
I don't know Ann too well, but this is just professional malpractice in my opinion. It's like, yeah, you go take a sample, you weight the sample, you do your best, you put the poll out. But a pollster has to understand the context into which they're releasing results like that. And the problem is the Democrats are just grasping at straws. They're desperate for any kind of hope. And this was so needed for them that it immediately vaulted to the top of Twitter trending and on like a Friday night, right? People are out at the movies. No, they're at home passing around news about the Seltzer poll. And it had been passed around apparently behind the scenes for days. And so she knew what she was going to release that in. Let me tell you, there are outliers. Sometimes you poll outliers. But when I get data back, I'm going to look at it and say, well, this demographic doesn't look like previous polls, or maybe I didn't get enough of these folks, or wow, the weighting efficiency is way off. Maybe I should go collect more data, or maybe there's some, and you go back and fix it. And I'm not saying you goal seek the response, but there's no way that Donald Trump is down in Iowa. The entire country has moved right. Every red state has moved right. You're not going to have one random state move massively to the left. And let's also not forget the fact that she had Trump up 18 in the summer and then spiked the poll until Rich Barris called her out on it. And you can just see the desperation. I mean, she was on Twitter. She literally just corrected one account's misspelling of her name and she got 31,000 likes. So that's where the level of desperation is. And to be honest with you, none of us, I've talked to a few other pollsters. I don't know why she put that out. It's really going to hurt the industry because it makes us look all ridiculous. And again, there are outliers. There's always that 20th out of 20 times, right, that might just come back with ridiculous results, but they always seem to go one direction. Show me the Trump outliers this time. Name me one Trump state poll outlier that came out, right? There's just nothing like this. And the fact that Democrats are just coping so bad that they're signal boosting this an incredible amount. It's kind of pathetic.
So it does seem pathetic. It seems like an entire slander on the industry. There's nobody who can replicate this. And then you go into the crosstabs and look at some of these interviews with her. She doesn't know what she's talking about. This is why the Mark Halperin interview, she's like, what does R stand for? What does D stand for? What, like, she didn't even know her own crosstabs. She's like, I've never seen these numbers before. Well, it's your poll. What do you think happened here? Like, did somebody pay her, or like, is she just so in the tank that she decided to poll only? She effectively did a senior citizens women's nursing home poll of only registered Democrats in Iowa. That's effectively what happened. We read the crosstabs ourselves.
Yeah, maybe she was pulling phone numbers from the wrong state. I really have no idea what happened. She got New York by accident. I mean, it's just incredible. Like, in her own polling, imagine like releasing a poll that moved 21 points in one direction when all of the context of the public polling is nationally the race hasn't changed that much and is kind of close. It literally makes zero sense. And maybe she can get a pass because she doesn't poll as much as us, and maybe she's just putting her name on the work that some of her underlings do. But I can tell you right now, I talk to the clients, I consult, I build the scripts, I program the poll, I process the numbers, I build the crosstabs, I even do my own thumbnails. So I'm in the trenches here, and I can tell you that there's no way this poll is correct, and it is quite frankly embarrassing. And it also shows you how rapidly the mainstream media is able to bestow gold standard on somebody that they think does a good job. And the sad thing is that she might not even take a credibility hit from this. Quite seriously, she gave the team what it seemed to need. And again, I don't want to directly imply that there was collusion there, but the Democrats got the poll. It was being passed around. And actually, who should get an award here? And listen, I don't know. I think Emerson's trying to be accurate, and we can, maybe argue a little bit about whether they're too far left. I think they are. But how stunning is it that they dropped this Republican Trump plus 10 poll hours before the Seltzer poll came out? It's like unbelievable. Muddied the water. So it's like, there's a solid poll. And then contrasting starkly with this ridiculous Democrat plus 3. I mean, you just don't see political movements like that. And good on them for embarrassing. Listen, I'd be in the field in Iowa too if I thought we had enough time, but we just couldn't put it together. And that's the other thing, is the timing, right? This was perfectly timed, so nobody could call her out, but so George Stephanopoulos had something to open the show with on Sunday morning. Saturday Night Live clips, the Iowa poll, all of this momentum's moving in Kamala Harris's direction. Meanwhile, pollster after pollster is dropping rightward-leaning national popular vote final polls on Real Clear Politics. Like, every single one of them is moving a point or two to the right to finish up with a race tied or Trump up. So they're not going to run with that on the Sunday morning shows for sure.
So we've covered some of the early vote totals in states like Pennsylvania, North Carolina, in Virginia, in Nevada. You're seeing historic numbers for Republicans. You're seeing in Pennsylvania, for instance, there's a 75% decrease in Democrat votes, early votes, 2 days from the election right now. I mean, this has got to be, like level 9 fire red alarm right now for Kamala Harris's camp. Can you talk us through what we're seeing here in early votes?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen yet, and let me explain that. So, in my opinion, my state polling shows that Trump should win most of the battlegrounds by a couple point margin. Maybe Michigan, but won't go to him, but we'll see, because all of my other Rust Belt polls have Trump up 2 or 3 points. Michigan might fall in line with the other Rust Belt states, especially considering the Muslim endorsements that Trump got. And my understanding there are 250,000 Muslims in Michigan. And you're not going to pick up shifts in the Muslim vote unless you specifically poll for that, and nobody has. So that's a big question mark, as well as the Amish vote, blah, 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 blah. But I've also been saying I think that Trump's going to outperform the state polling. And one of the other reasons I would say that is that the battlegrounds the last couple cycles have been about 4 points to the right of the national popular vote. Every left-wing pollster has a national popular vote tied right now. So by that logic, I do think we should see Trump up 3 or 4 points in the swing states. And that also confirms other feelings I've had that I think the polling is going to be to the right of me. Now, we have seen very good early turnout for Republicans, but also the turnout hasn't been up from 2020. It's just massively down for Democrats. So there will be more Democrats on election day. And I think the Democrats are really hoping that, listen, some Republicans will break for Democrat. Maybe they'll get more of the independent vote. I show the independent vote mostly going for Trump. But nobody really knows until election day happens, because depending on the state, there's 20 to 40% of the voters out there that are going to show up on election day. But my polling says in every single battleground state, people who plan to vote on election day go Trump by 8 to 12 points. And so Republicans should be picking up votes on election day and not the other way around. It's just a question of how many. If the Democrat turnout disadvantage continues through to election day and Democrats do not show up, you could see massive Trump outperformance. And I'll tell you another one, that video they put out, Harris campaign put out a video, I think it was yesterday, full of Orwellian doublespeak, but basically telling people, don't freak out. You might see stuff on election day you don't like, but do not leave the lines if you see Georgia and North Carolina called for Trump early. Basically, that's what they're saying. And I think it's because they know that they're losing Georgia and North Carolina. The results are going to be in early, and they think it's going to affect their Rust Belt performance because some of those polls will still be open. And then also, we have no idea what's going to happen as far as the national popular vote, because as these states on the East getting called for Trump, confirming that the state polling is probably too left might affect turnout in the West, might affect turnout in, I don't know, places like New Mexico.
Fascinating. So here's the Rasmussen report's final call that includes Peanut the squirrel.
Yeah, poor Peanut.
And if you were looking for another corollary to 2016, you have your Harambe moment here. You're saying, as you have said on this program and been mocked for relentlessly, because you've been saying it since the summer, that Donald Trump is in a pole position to win the national popular vote.
Yeah, as basically 70% of the polling industry would probably agree with. I think what we got to on a national popular vote basis is that most of these guys got up to about tie, and that's as far as their managing editors would let them publish. I really do think that's what, I mean, we got Fox News, Trump +2, CNBC, Trump +2, Wall Street Journal, a Murdoch outlet, Trump +3. They finally got our Trump +3 on there too. Atlas Intel, Trump +2. But here's all the other ties. Tip, New York Post, NBC News, Emerson, New York Times, Siena, which is 538's #1 pollster. And everybody else, listen, the far left bookend here is Marist at a Harris +4. And ABC News, where did they go? They were at Harris +3, but now, they must have a final call coming. I almost guarantee you they're going to put out a tie, but we'll see. I mean, they just can't bring themselves. And of course, the headlines with the national popular, the Real Clear Politics aggregate is exactly tie right now. Good job, NPR Marist, for pushing it back to a tie. But they're all saying in the headlines, well, that's a razor-thin race. The national popular vote tie is a razor-thin race. I can't believe it.
So Trump wins the national vote. Talk us through the math here. The path to victory becomes a very, very quick, very, very quick stride.
Yeah, this looks right like what my numbers show, except I have Wisconsin Trump +3, so I'd flip that one there. That gets him to 297. And I have Michigan a toss-up. It's only at Harris +1. But if you're talking about toss-ups, New Hampshire is a toss-up too, because I also have that at Harris +1. And then Virginia is at Harris +2. So if my state polling is 2 points to left, and we were 6 points to left in 2020, I'll tell you that right now. We're talking about 14-17, 27. It's like 32. Like, it's a lot of votes that could go for Trump. So we're seeing something in the 320s then, right?
So 320 is what is mathematically acceptable.
Yeah, I think the map you're showing here is a reasonable take based on my numbers, but I'd flip Wisconsin, 297. That's my base case based on my polling. I think there's a much better case that Trump outperforms, and a near zero case that Harris significantly outperforms the polling. But, things have happened, right?
Yeah, things have happened. So these are the final state polling for Rasmussen.
Yep. After we showed you this, we got Wisconsin at Trump +3 and Michigan at Harris +1. But yeah, this is all of the polls. And I'll tell you, New Mexico, Harris +5, New Hampshire, Harris +1, Virginia. Here's the thing, right? They're going to need those Rust Belt votes, but we could get early returns out of Virginia that show that it's going more red than everybody expects. Youngkin won it there. And then, right, if we're seeing heavy rural New Jersey Republican turnout and depressed turnout again in all of the blue Democrat population centers, like, it really could break in a massive way. It really could be a complete upset. I mean, again, I've tried not to go too far out on and I think people have quoted me and said this is like 1980. Well, let me caveat that it's in 1980 in that I think the pollsters were lying by an equal amount. But luckily, because of maybe the internet, maybe because of us polling daily, for whatever reason, they broke to the right sooner than in 1980. And also, there was that third-party spoiler, right? If you took his votes and gave them to Carter, I think you'd see a Reagan +4 or 5, maybe 6. And that's what we might see. We could see a Trump +4. I've got him at Trump +3. But look at time and time again, Democrat turnout down, Republican turnout up. Democrat mail-ins way down. Just really horrible for them.
So you're using the L word. You're saying that landslide could be possible. 320 would be a landslide.
Is that what the word means? I mean, Scott Adams has been calling a landslide, so I agree that there is a pretty solid case that happens. It's predicated on I did not really go out on a limb to bake in all of the Republican registration gains. I did not go and say, hey, this time around, let me sort of downweight all of the black respondents. I didn't do any of that. I didn't say, hey, we should see way more rural turnout this time and way less urban turnout. I didn't do that in any of my polls. In fact, I was actually suppressing Trump support by waiting to the recall vote. So, we don't even, if I took that off, I think Trump would be outperforming. Without the recall vote, Trump's like +5, +6 in my numbers. So, there's a much better case for a Trump landslide than there is for a Harris overperformance. All of a sudden, it's 2012 again. All of a sudden, people have about as much enthusiasm for Trump as they do for Romney. I just don't see it. People obviously do. That's why they're trying to convince themselves with Ann Seltzer's Iowa poll. I mean, it's ridiculous how many people are taking that one single poll and saying, well, the entire polling industry is wrong. I put a meme up about it. They're literally ignoring all of the left-wing polling because they say that it's overemphasizing Trump support. They finally learned. Third time's a charm. They figured out how to poll Trump Republicans. And yet you go into the ABC News crosstabs and it's the same old thing. They show, get this, the ABC News, I was calling them out because they were the left bookend until NPR and Marist dropped their +4. They had Harris +3. You go into the crosstabs, and one of the questions they ask is, are you satisfied with the candidates? And they have 57% of Trump supporters saying no. Like, there's no way. Trump is the highest vote of any Republican ever, right? He's got massively high favorability, higher than Biden's. And yeah, there were some people that wanted another candidate, but you're telling me 57% of Trump supporters are dissatisfied with a candidate this time around? That's who these people are polling to get a Harris +3. It's not reality.
It's not reality. So it's a final question for you, Mark. Donald Trump, could he eclipse Joe Biden's 81 million vote tally? And will anyone believe it if they say that Kamala Harris has more votes than Joe Biden and Barack Obama?
I mean, people. The lesson I've learned is people may believe anything, right? They've consumed a lot of lies. I really don't know where the total turnout numbers. I think Trump should be up, right? I think he's changed more minds. I think he's gained more people than he's lost. So we could see a number in the upper 70s for sure. I don't know if he's going to make that 81 number. That number was really magical. Not like half the country thinks that number is totally made up, by the way. 49% of people said they at least somewhat agree that there's no way Joe Biden got 81 million votes. And I think based on the mail-in ballot returns and the depressed turnout and the fact that Democrats have a 400 vote firewall when they had a 1.1 million vote firewall in Pennsylvania. I mean, that's down massive percentages. So they might see a number more normal for Democrats, which is mid 60s, in which case, yeah, that's wild. That's a big landslide, like you said. So I have to see how many turn out.
Well, yeah, I guess we'll see. The Obama magic, not transferable, something that we have learned time and time again in every single election. And it seems like panic time, but we'll wait and see. Somebody who's been causing an enormous amount of panic just for doing his job, the great Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen. Here he is on X. If you want to get the hottest takes and some of the spiciest memes, please follow Mark. He's just one of the OGs, man. And we thank you, Mark, for coming on this program and educating our audience to this wild ride that we've all been on.
Yeah, thanks for helping give us a voice. Appreciate it.
My man. All right, landslide Mark. We'll see. Popular vote Mark.
There were some caveats there.
Book them Wednesday morning. Book them Wednesday morning. I want the victory dance. Mark, for the whole show. The whole thing's going to be a victory dance. It's going to be incredible.
Oh, sure, I'll take a lap or two.
Yeah. Hey, Godspeed, man. Be an interesting 24 hours.
All right. Yep.